Hey guys, what is going on? So I took a GNC for you DNA test, which is basically just Vitagene, and that's going to show you some supplements that you can take, your ancestry and stuff like that. And they had a little sale going on if you were a GNC Pro member, which I am and was at the time. So I decided to take advantage of it. Just got my results back last night, so I'm just going to show you my screen here. Just a few interesting things. Now, I mainly got it for the ancestry purpose, but I thought those other things sounded pretty cool as well. So here we go with ancestry. Just gonna be quick here. Thought I was, Irish, Italian, a little bit of German, where it turns out, according to this, assuming this is Irish, the vast majority of me is Irish. So that's pretty cool. Makes me feel a lot more Irish than I was. I didn't know if I was like 50% or even lower, but that seems pretty convincing. And then the Southeast Europe part, which would contain Italy, just a very small percentage of 3%. So that's actually pretty surprising. But again, these things, I don't know how accurate they are, but at the same time, if I had ancestors in Italy, it doesn't necessarily mean that their ancestors were in Italy. So it's hard to know exactly, just based on your family talking about where you're from, what your genetic traits actually are. This Middle East part, I had no idea, but that's pretty cool. But yeah, so I'm just gonna skip on after that. Didn't really need to go into too much depth there. I just thought that was interesting. But I thought the genetic traits thing was pretty cool. So caffeine metabolism is fast, and I've noticed that I've never actually had any real response to taking caffeine. Whether I'm on it all the time or whether I haven't taken caffeine in a while, when I take a bunch or anything like that, I never notice anything from caffeine. Now, I'm not saying there is no response at all, but I personally don't notice anything. This is why pre-workouts and stuff like that aren't very effective to me. I more so look for things like citrulline in there, in terms of, maybe this could potentially increase your nitric oxide production, as opposed to getting some type of caffeine hype or anything like that. So other than that, weight management, increased likelihood. So basically I have a higher chance of being overweight, which, considering my family on both sides, doesn't seem too crazy. Carb metabolism is slow. So just stuff like that kind of just makes me think, weight regain after diet, I'm going to regain more. So basically a lot of this is kind of saying that I have an increased likelihood to be overweight. Now, I do think that looking at my family, that does seem to be pretty accurate. But at the same time, me personally, I'm like the tallest person in my family, also probably the most muscular. So for me, I struggle to gain weight. One, because, I have a fast metabolism in my 20s, the height, the weight, and I also have a very active job. So there's a variety of things there that make this, me kind of be the outlier in this. But potentially down the line, if I don't continue to exercise and build muscle and stuff like that, I would be more likely to gain weight. So this is something that's good to know. I kind of figured it, but it's good to know anyway. Exercise traits. Now this is interesting. Exercise performance type of power and endurance. I kind of figured I would be a little bit more power oriented, less so endurance, but I guess my dad was kind of like a distance runner. He ran marathons and stuff like that. So I guess that makes sense. But I'm cool with that. Other than that, I thought this was really interesting. Building muscle strength. Emerging research suggests that people with your genetics may see only small increases in muscle strength in response to strength training, which I thought is very interesting. I consider myself a pretty strong guy, and I felt like it happened pretty easily. So I'm just going to close out of this here and just talk. But I really think that having the mentality that your genetics are bad, like somebody could look at that test and say, why would I strength train? I have less likelihood to increase strength. But, that's a very defeatist attitude. And honestly, I don't know how accurate that is. Again, I've reiterated that. But I've found throughout my life, whether I'm just some outlier or whatever, that I have really good genetics. In fact, most people in my family have seemed to build muscle pretty easily or be pretty athletic. So I've kind of found that when I was a young kid, I was just really big. I was a really big baby. I tend to put on muscle pretty easily when I was younger. I started lifting when I was younger, so I took advantage of that. So I would say that my genetics, at least in my experience and kind of looking at my family, are really good for. So maybe this is talking about strength and not muscle size, but I found that my ability to gain muscle seem to be pretty elite. So I don't know which is true or if it's somewhere in the middle, but I think me having the mentality that I had good genetics was something that allowed me to continue to work out. And honestly, one of the driving factors for me working out in my adulthood was just, I knew that I had this ability to gain muscle pretty easily in the past, and I wanted to see how far I could take it naturally. So that's something that actually motivated me to start working out again. So if I were to have that attitude that, oh, I wouldn't have much ability to gain muscle or strength, I don't know if I really would have gotten super into fitness ever again after I stopped playing sports. So I really think that having the correct mentality, or maybe looking at something like this and thinking your genetics suck, if you just tell yourself your genetics are good, or you just don't listen to that, I think that's really what's gonna help you get better gains. It's mostly about mentality. If you put in the work, even if you can only get 75% of the gains of, the guy next to you, that's still gains, and it's still something that you should strive for if you're trying to improve your body or improve your lifestyle or anything like that. So for me, I think I've probably gained the vast majority of the muscle that I'll ever gain. So I don't think that can really motivate or demotivate me too much, depending on which side of the spectrum I'm on, because I've kind of noticed I'm kind of hitting that limit. But I think, honestly, if I kind of think of it as my genetics being bad from this point on, it gives me that motivation to kind of say, hey, this isn't due purely to genetics. It's, lifting over a period of years, and it kind of makes me motivated to see, hey, can I hit these numbers even if my genetics aren't, super optimal according to this. So I'm taking all this with a grain of salt. Obviously, I am Irish, I know that, but other than that, I just thought it was an interesting thing to do, and I just want to share my results. And that's kind of what the report entails. There are other things talking about your vitamin levels and stuff like that. I'm guessing those are more trying to get you to buy their vitamins, but I don't really know. I do generally, and I know this is Vitagene, GNC is just kind of putting their logo on it, but I do generally like GNC products. So, even though they are probably trying to make money through this, I do think that, some suggestions about certain supplements that I should take, I'm not too mad about that, just because I use a lot of GNC products anyway. So, but anyway, that's all I got to say about that. Just wanted to share that, and I will talk to you soon.